Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, and thank you for watching.
For the past few weeks, Central Square has played host to public property as that we have a Tragedy of the Commons issue.
Saying happy holidays, Keene.
Voluntary interactions where individuals are free to act so long as they don't initiate force.
This morning, we gather to remember Sergeant Tom Ball.
I'm Johnny Ray.
And I'm Allie Havens. In local news tonight, the Railroad Tavern was the location of a brawl Saturday night. Estimates of 30 to 40 people were involved in the melee.
It all started when the state of New Hampshire's liquor enforcement aggressed against a 19-year-old drinker. The drinker chose to defend himself and fought back. Then both inside and outside the bar, allegedly unrelated fights broke out.
Keene police arrested 2 individuals. There were no serious injuries reported from the brawl. It remains to be seen what punishment the state will levy against the tavern.
This past Tuesday was Election Day in Keene, and 16% of the city's residents turned out to approve a $61 million budget for the school system. Susan Hay, Carl Panza, and Marjorie Droppa were granted 3-year terms to the Keene School Board.
Voters also decided to keep the Jonathan Daniel School open and to keep the current kindergarten through 5th grade structure in place.
Next, we're joined by Derrick J Freeman for one of his video segments.
Hello, Johnny and Allie. A policewoman in Hollis thought it was the right thing to do to take out her pepper spray and launch it unannounced into the eyes of peaceful 21-year-old Eric Geller, who was visiting his alma mater to have discussions with former professors. In my recent interview with Eric, he says he can't imagine how an imaginary entity, the state of New Hampshire, is able to be a victim of his peaceful actions. He also says that he feels he has the right to stand on public property, so long as he's not hurting anyone or getting in the way, which he says he wasn't. Eric is facing 3 misdemeanor charges: criminal trespass, being on school property, disorderly conduct, being on school property, and resisting arrest, going limp, and faces up to 3 years in jail and $3,000 in fines. His story is particularly interesting because of the recent militarization of local police and growing state resistance to members of the public treating public property as if it's for public use. You're also able to view this video at livefreeordance.com.
Derrick, would you like to maybe just tell us about the interview? I think they're working on the video in there. Before the show started, we saw that it wasn't quite right.
Yes, that's right. So with my interview with Eric, he revealed that he was being totally peaceful in his actions, and unannounced, a state agent came up to him while he was trying to get into the school to make an appointment to see some of these teachers. Somehow, though he didn't infringe on anyone else's rights, I don't see how agents of the state expect to pay him restitution for the harm they've inflicted on him that day by launching a chemical weapon into his eyes and then caging him. Let's remember that pepper spray is not allowed even in war under the international rules of war.
I saw that. I was surprised to hear that.
True? Pepper spray is not allowed in warfare? It's against international law?
Yeah, that's correct. But somehow it's acceptable for local police to launch it into the eyes of peaceful people.
Interesting. So, well, you have some personal sort of experience with police aggression, and they're always quick to use pepper spray because it's viewed as a non-lethal way to get people to submit and cooperate. So yeah, it brings me back to the Live for Your Dance party in which you were aggressed upon with Officer Kopcha, who used pepper spray against you when it was unnecessary again. So I wonder why police, it seems like they use it at times when the person's already been apprehended.
Yes, let's remember when Michael Kopcha, a local policeman in Keene, used pepper spray on me, I was handcuffed at that point and was only verbally refusing to aid in my own kidnapping. But this young man was standing on property for which his parents paid, and he, like me, had hurt no one. And unprovoked, a woman inflicted immense disorienting pain into his eyes and locked him in a cage for ransom. I mean, if you wouldn't be willing to do these things yourself, then I posit that you have a responsibility and an obligation to speak out against these actions. And, you know, for the viewers at home, that means using your wallets as well as your voices. If the police aren't working for you, don't pay them.
why? So the woman just came up to him and basically pepper sprayed him without any kind of
right.
What
right. Did Eric Geller go into detail about what he was there for? What provocation there may have been? Is there video of this
interaction?
There's video of this. No, there's no video of the interaction that's available to the public at this time. Hopefully, in the court proceedings, will become available because he has decided to take this issue to court, and he will.
But video exists, but it's just under the court's handling right now.
That's correct.
Okay.
And so, yes, I look forward to seeing this footage, but the way he describes it is a policewoman came up to him and told him to put his hands on some glass on the wall, and so he did, and she patted him down to search him for weapons. He, of course, didn't have any weapons on him. He was just looking to have conversations with professors. And so when she said to him to put his hands behind his back, he verbally refused, and realizing that he was about to be arrested, he went onto the ground and laid there. The policewoman thought that the right thing to do at this point was to take out her pepper spray and put it in his eyes.
Wow. So police, I guess, have not been trained to know the difference between someone who is resisting arrest and someone who is going limp or not making any use of their muscles, basically just, allowing, I've heard it explained that they don't want to cooperate with kidnappers, but they're not resisting either. It's a lack of action.
I would think it should be self-evident that if a person in a coma can commit the crime, then it is no crime.
Right, that is a good point.
I think the police are trained to control every situation they're a part of, and the challenge for them that they frequently fail at is keeping their means of control inside the bounds of moderation. But nothing is really beyond the pale for a police officer. They're the ultimate authority. As the police are presently constituted, they're sort of the final arbiter in a situation before it gets legal and whatnot. But they have to be in control. So he was on the ground, and then he got pepper sprayed.
That's right, and you make a great point. These police who sometimes abuse their power are victims themselves, let's remember. They're victims of perverse incentives, which, given in a free society, they wouldn't act this way, or I don't think that any person would act this way. But in a system where they won't be punished no matter what actions they take, they may go a bit power-hungry and use excessive force on peaceful individuals, knowing that they won't face any sort of retribution.
I got arrested a couple of days ago, and one of the officers who was dealing with me was he was a kind man, and I don't think that he's going to make it very far in the. Was
he new to the force?
Yeah, he was. He was a new guy. And he was nice, and he was sort of trying to make light and keep everything airy. And the guy who put me in cuffs, though, he was the chief, and he was not as helpful or as friendly or as
He'd probably been on the force for a little longer than the other one.
It's been my experience speaking with law enforcement that those who are gentle and understanding don't make it very long, and those who are the most apt to abuse their power are those who climb the ranks.
I wonder how much of this just sort of outright, using of the pepper spray and their different tools, just sort of willy-nilly. I wonder how much is from their confusion with the situation. Like if they're used to people just cooperating and doing, following their orders, and then someone doesn't, if they're just confused and a little bewildered, and so they think they have to use one of their tools to fix the person. And as they say, if all you have is a hammer, then every problem's a nail. So if you have pepper spray, then that's how you solve all your problems.
Right, and pepper spray is not the only weapon this woman had. Of course, she's a walking weapon for the state, and this man whom she attacked has no weapons on him. So for her to escalate the situation by introducing violence is just unforgivable. I am here with Eric Geller. He's 21 years old and recently was the victim of aggression by agents of the state. He lives in Hollis. You were on the property of a high school, which you attended. Is that right?
That's right. So I decided to go for a walk around town, and I decided that I wanted to talk with some teachers about education and other miscellaneous subjects, possibly philosophy. I was talking with one of the chemistry teachers, and the head custodian came over as well and informed me that I wasn't allowed to be inside the building. I need to make an appointment with the main office, and it was rather cold that morning, and I simply asked if I could stay inside the main lobby area until I could go into the office and make an appointment. And I was told that I had to wait outside, and there's a little area in the front of the building between the outside and the main lobby area where the office is. And I asked simply if I could wait there, and I was told no. I was doing nothing but making conversation. I felt like I had a right to be there. It's public property. I should be able to visit the high school, and as long as I'm not causing problems, which I didn't feel I was, I should be able to wait until the office was open. After I was told several times to wait outside, they said that they would call the police and have me removed from the building.
And what happened when the police showed up?
I was behaving similarly the entire time. I was told, leave the building, and I said I just want to make an appointment with the teacher. And I was told that I had to leave, and eventually it got to the point, and this is where my memories are so fuzzy, because I don't remember doing anything aggressive or anything on the ground that would warrant this, but I was told to put my hand on the glass, which I did. I was searched. I had nothing to warrant any kind of arrest or any behavior that was aggressive or violent. And then I was told to put my hand behind my back, and I refused.
Were you told that you were being detained at this point, or that you were under arrest?
No, actually, I don't remember hearing at any point that I was under arrest or that I was being charged for any crime.
So, when did you hear that you were being charged with criminal trespass?
It wasn't until I had waited in the hall of police station for several hours, and that I was released on bail that I was aware of my charges. There's 3 misdemeanor charges, all class A.
Who is the alleged victim in these cases?
The Hollis school, the Hollis High School. According to the police, did no wrong. I damaged no property, and there were no people's harm besides myself from being pepper sprayed.
Was it inside the school?
It was inside the school.
For what?
Well, I wasn't told for what. I was just told, put your hands behind your back, and I didn't. I didn't want to violently resist, so I just went to the ground at that point.
There was no warning from the officer that she was about to pepper spray you?
It was just spray and then pain.
You had no weapons to defend yourself?
No. There's no reason for me to wait outside. I'm not a danger to the school. I was a student there.
Do you think that's how people in Hollis who work hard for their money want it to be used?
I don't think they would want someone who's not committing any violent crime to be pepper sprayed.
As you can see, we had some technical difficulties, but we're back. We apologize. In our final segment, we have Jason Talley and Bradley Jardis joining us in studio, both of whom have been covered on Free Keene TV in past episodes. Brad for his gun rights demonstration on the Plymouth State University campus, and Talley for his arrest at Superior Court.
First, we have a short video introduction to Jason Talley's situation.
So Jason Talley, he's a member of the Free Press. He's a journalist, and he likes to cover things having to do with the state. He went to the courthouse and was arrested for possession of a camera.
All right, this afternoon in Keene, there was a trial that I had, a civil trial, and right before the trial started, the man came in. Everyone was told to all rise, and no one on the defendant's side of the courtroom did. They were then threatened by the court bailiffs, and some people decided to, they were told that they had to leave. Some people decided to get up and slowly leave. The bailiffs moved in on folks. Jason Talley was getting up and leaving. He was placed under arrest. Kelly was also arrested. So we've had 2 arrests this afternoon simply for not standing for the man in the robe. Arraignments are...
Well, a little background. I presently am representing Jason Talley of Talley TV in front of the Cheshire County Superior Court. He's been charged with 3 things. One is contempt of court, the other is disorderly conduct, and the other is resisting arrest. And the basis for these charges all stem from court orders that were enacted after Derrick Freeman. He attempted to interview a judge in Keene, New Hampshire about his decision to put someone in jail for contempt for 5 days for wearing a hat in the courtroom.
Welcome to the show, Brad and Jason.
Thank you very much.
Brad, we had Derrick Freeman on last week to talk about his unlawful caging by Judge Burke, and now you're saying that Jason Talley's arrest is connected. How so?
Well, there's a string of events that sort of flow together. It all starts with what happened to Ademo, or Adam Miller, his alias is Derrick Freeman. What happened to him on June 28th was that he attempted to ask constitutionally protected questions of Judge Burke, the presiding judge of the Keene Circuit Court District Division. And you know, the questions he was asking was about enforcement of a public policy using taxpayers' money. And that was, it had to do about, was about the hat that Bo was wearing when he was in court when he was arrested. So Ademo, he approaches Judge Burke and he politely asks him if taxpayers want to spend money on putting people in jail for things like this. As a result, Judge Burke tells a lie, tells his bailiffs that, that Adam was threatening him, and Adam is arrested. 3 days later, on July 1st, the Circuit Court Administrative Judge, a gentleman named Edwin Kelly, he enacts a rule that says there's no filming in courthouses in Keene. And the justification he used was that members of the court system had been accosted by members of the public, by certain members of the public, undoubtedly referring to Adam approaching Judge Burke as he came to work. The issue is that for Judge Burke to say that constitutionally protected questions are the equivalent of being accosted, they're taking away the constitutional rights of everybody else because a judge breaks the Constitution. So these court orders that were put into place, the one that Judge Kelly enacted, was mimicked that same day by the Chief Judge of the Superior Court, Tina Nato. And that order was expanded 14 days after that by the presiding judge of the Cheshire Superior Court, John Arnold. And that order said you couldn't even possess a cell phone with a camera, anything that can create a video recording. So essentially, the judicial branch has reduced the constitutional rights of everybody as a result of a judge being caught on camera committing a crime. So that is what Jason is charged with, is the possession of a camera on his belt. And I'm not a lawyer. I haven't gone to law school. I'm just a former police officer who knows some stuff about the law. And what I'm trying to do in this case is tell the judge, tell her that the jury should have a right to nullify Jason's charges, because these court orders that Jason is accused of, or the court order Jason is accused of violating, stem directly from a judge being caught on camera violating the law.
So they're protecting themselves.
So, yeah, I mean, it is either a blatantly corrupt court order to protect a judge who commits a crime by lying to bailiffs on camera, or it appears that it is a corrupt court order. So Jason's now facing these charges that all stemmed from the restriction of rights after a judge violates the Constitution on camera. And I mean, there's a lot of activism that goes on in the state that I personally don't agree with, and some of that stuff happens in Keene, but what I vehemently oppose is the government thinking that it can get away with doing stuff like this to people who have differing opinions. I mean, Governor Craig Benson welcomed the Free State Project to New Hampshire, and that includes activists that moved to Keene to do things that are more out of the system than in. So even if a person renounces the fact that the government is theirs, or that the government exists at all. The fact is the government still has to respect the constitutional rights of people, and that clearly didn't happen to Adam Miller, and by them enforcing this law on Jason, it's not happening to him either.
Clearly.
Yeah, now I've got one more question.
Sure.
When were you were arrested for?
In September.
In September.
Right.
You were arrested recently for carrying a camera somewhere?
That was September when I was arrested for carrying a camera, for having a camera clipped to my belt.
Right.
Okay.
One thing I think people in the public should be aware of is that Jason Talley used to have a top secret government clearance. You know, he was in the United States Air Force, and his political ideations changed, which is why he's here, part of the Free State Project and part of the Liberty Movement. You know, Jason Talley's not some troublemaker who who's been in and out of prison. He's a former trusted government official who simply wants to exercise his rights as a member of the free press, but he can't because the court has enacted these rules restricting the Constitution to cover for a judge who broke the law on camera. Today, a press release was issued, and we have a state representative who is publicly calling, or who publicly has used the word impeachment for some of these judges that are involved in this, because we have Judge Burke, who told the lie that got Adam Miller arrested, and then we have the chief judge of the, he's called the administrative judge of the Circuit Court, Edwin Kelly, and then, of course, the chief judge of the Superior Court, Tina Nato. So we have 3 court orders issued by 3 judges in response to a judge flagrantly breaking the law on camera. And I have arrested people before for what Judge Burke did, and he should be, he should be off the bench, and he should be held accountable. You know, the time in jail that he should spend should be at least 2 days for the 2 days Adam spent in jail, and then 3 days for the 3 days that Jason spent in jail.
Right. And I have to cut you off there because I wanted to ask Jason Talley, how has this whole ordeal impacted your ability to do your job as an independent journalist?
I'm scared to go into the Superior Court, obviously. I actually stepped foot inside the Superior Court to cover a hearing. It was about access of the media, and that was important to me. So after me boycotting the court for a while, I decided to go in. And because I didn't stand up quickly enough for Judge Arnold, again, they put me in a cage, took me to the corrections facility.
Well, what about freedom of the press?
Right, I'm there to report. I don't think I need to stand or sit on demand. I don't think anybody should have to do that.
Well, is your work as an independent journalist not as important as following the procedures, like the silly standing for the court? Is it somehow more important for you to stand up instead of maybe you were busy with your camera or something?
Well, like Brad mentioned, there's corruption. I would like to cover it, but they don't want that. They don't want cameras in their courtroom, so I can't tell you what's going on in there. I know that somebody burned themselves on fire outside of the Superior Court building.
Brad, we have another piece of video to show you, and I'm hoping you can elaborate on it for us.
Sure.
The Supreme Court has the power to make rules that have the force and effect of law. And if the Supreme Court is using its power to make rules that have the force and effect of law to cover for a judge who committed a crime on camera, I think that's something the public should know about, because I would say it's certainly an abuse of the public trust. If you read the order that was issued 3 or 4 days after Ademo was wrongfully in jail for 2 days, the administrative judge of the it's now called the Circuit Court District Division, Edwin Kelly, he was so bold as to write that members of the public have accosted the presiding justice. These people think that independent members of the free press asking questions about public policy and about tax policy is equivalent to accosting somebody.
So, can you elaborate a little bit more about what you're saying in that?
Well, I'm trying to connect the dots for people who don't know the entire story. Like, a lot of people I've heard in the community get a little upset with some of the activism that goes on here in Keene.
Right, but you have to put it in context.
Right. But what happened here was activism in Keene was followed up with constitutionally protected journalism. Adam Miller owns a website called Copblock, and in the interest of full disclosure, I frequently blog there myself to talk about police accountability things. But he genuinely is a journalist, and he attempted to ask a public official questions about the use of taxpayer money. He asked questions about whether or not people should be in jail for wearing a hat inside a government building that ostensibly belongs to them. So, I mean, what Ademo did, I keep going back and forth with his name a little bit, I apologize about that. What he did was something that is completely protected by the Constitution, and as a result, the Constitution was abused when Judge Burke lied to have him arrested, and then it was abused further when everybody's rights in the Keene Circuit Court and the Keene Superior Court, when their rights were reduced as a result of that.
Right, and it's not only people's rights being abused, people's physically being abused when they're being arrested. You didn't have a normal arrest when you arrested Talley. It was
an assault, and I've never been assaulted like that before. I mean, in New Hampshire, I was. They stole my camera. First of all, they stole 3 days of my life. There's video of it, but. They also dragged me by handcuffs, after handcuffing me, across the floor, and then threw me in the courthouse. They have cages there, so they kept me there for a while.
And you're a former police officer, so, I mean, aren't they supposed to be doing the best they can to try to not injure people when they're detaining them?
Well, first off, I would like to say publicly that I think Judge Burke screwed the Keene police here, because the Keene police trusted Judge Burke to tell the truth, and I believe it was Officer Peliquin who went on Judge Burke's word that that Adam had actually threatened him when he took him to jail. Of course, I don't doubt that Officer Peliquin feels bad about that, but ultimately the blame shouldn't go with Officer Peliquin or the Keene police. The blame should go on Judge Burke.
You're suggesting that Judge Burke is effectively throwing the police officers and bailiffs under the bus for his own actions.
Absolutely. Someone showing up at a courthouse and threatening a judge about a decision they made is a serious deal. It's a huge deal. And for Burke to make that accusation and for the police to believe it it makes sense to me, because I would believe it too if I was still a cop. But the fact is, Judge Burke lied to the police.
So if I could describe the video that was shown just now, it was me going up to the clerk of court window. I was trying to file some paperwork. They detected a camera on me, and so they stopped me from doing my business there, and then you could see me being dragged away there just now.
Well, thank you guys for being on our show. Hope you come on again, and good luck with your trial and everything going on there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but I think the jury's still out about whether or not Jason Talley is or is not a troublemaker. As always, please send any feedback to tv@freekeene.com.
Also, be sure to send any news tips or story ideas. I'm Allie Havens.
And I'm Johnny Ray, hoping this nice weather continues. Good night, Keene.